Hello, I'm Lydia Lee, the Business Creator Coach at Screw the Cubicle, and welcome to the video series for Startup to Sold Out, which is my signature program where I help you create your business, launch an offer, and find customers in 8 weeks. So as part of this video series that I'm broadcasting to you, I have curated and picked out some amazing leaders, experts, and entrepreneurs around the world that have really been so amazing at finding their niche, packaging their talents and their passions into really successful programs, packages, and offers to sell to their audience, and being able to leverage their time and make more money in their business. So today's episode, I have Yasemin Inal from YaseminInal.com, who is a high-performance coach and a business strategist. And I've been following her for quite a few months now in different entrepreneur groups that we've been a part of. And I really, really love how authentic and genuine her way of helping is. And even though she is, someone that's reached that bar of the six-figure mark for her business, she is so intimate and so in front of her audience at any given time, and I really love how authentic her approach is with her coaching. And so what I wanted to do in my interview with her is really interview her on how, first of all, she started her business. How did that come to her? She came from academia, came from an academic world, and how did she become a coach, and what was the process she took to get there? We also talk a little bit about how she created packages and know that there were these packages that will be selling to the audience, and how does she know that they will hit the mark really of the pain points and the desire points of her audience, and how does she really infuse her own instincts and her natural abilities to create the courses and the programs that she runs. We also talk a little bit about how she comes up with the content for her structures, which is her blueprint. And I'm so glad she mentioned the part where she talks about reverse engineering, which is what I teach as well in Startup to Sold Out, of how to create these milestones, how to create structure, which is the blueprint, the map of your process, so that you really understand the value of what you're transforming in people and what you're actually giving as part of your work, so that you can charge appropriately and really market the right benefits and features to your customers. So without further ado, welcome Yasemin Inal to the video series for Startup to Sold Out. I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining me all the way from, was it North Carolina? No,
yeah, Raleigh, North Carolina.
Raleigh, North Carolina. So it's nighttime for you there, while it's early morning for me. And I know you're a busy gal because I see you kind of floating around the Facebook groups, and you're so helpful, which is what I love about someone like you, because you are a coach that's established and making really great money, but you still show up for your audience, which I love. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But first, for people who've not heard about you, first of all, this is Yasemin Inal from YaseminInal.com. She's a high-performance coach and business strategist for entrepreneurs. And tell us a little bit of a story of kind of how you got started and what brought you to do the work that you do today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Lydia. This is such a great, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here. And I love what you're doing. I think it's a great program. So what started my journey? It kind of happened by accident. I wish I could say I was like always an entrepreneur, but honestly, I never really liked business. I always thought I didn't like business. I had that mindset that business was something that was just, I don't know, just sleazy, slimy, and I just didn't like it. And I always said I would never study business or marketing.
Right.
And I was the educator and the journalist, so I studied journalism in my undergrad, graduated, got a great job at with a great pay. But the thing is, it wasn't all that adventure that I had imagined in my mind. I'm a people person, and I thought I'd be on the streets, capturing amazing stories.
Yeah.
But I was stuck at a desk, and I had to write in a very deadline-driven environment. Yes. And even though I really needed the money, I was a college graduate, right? I needed the cash because I was broke throughout my college years trying to pay my tuition for a private school. And but I was like, you know what? I cannot be doing this. I just cannot be doing this for the rest of my life just for the money. It's not going to sustain me. It's not making my heart sing. And I'm coming here to work, dragging my feet. So I knew right then and there that it wasn't the job for me, even though I love writing, but it wasn't the creative writing that I, was desiring.
Yeah.
So I left. I was in Ohio, left Ohio, went to New York City and started a new life in a way, clean slate. And I said to myself, I had, my sister was there in New York City, so I had family. And I started looking for jobs. I said, you know what, I'll look for something that has to do with dealing with people. I could teach, I could do something. And I landed a job in the heart of Brooklyn in a private school. They were looking for a high school English teacher.
Okay.
So that was perfect for me because I love English. It's something that I enjoyed growing up. And I said, okay, I can do this. I can teach them how to write. I can teach them how to, read Shakespeare and all of that stuff. And loved it. I fell in love with it, the connection with my students. That's how it began for me, that whole personal development. I was into not just the educational aspect, teaching them how to write. Yes. Teaching them how to read. Yes. But I was more into the whole human being, the psychology and the personal growth. So I always tried to incorporate those things because those are things I've always loved reading. I was always into like Jack Canfield's books, like the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. And the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That was something that I had really loved in college. So I was incorporating those things in my classes. Eventually, I said, you know what? I want to do this in a legitimate way. Let me go get a master's in education. So I went to Columbia University, studied. I'm giving you like the whole thing in a very quick way. After I studied, I said, okay, I'm going to teach at the college level. And I thought that was it for me. Like, this is it. It's the perfect job. It's not even a job. I love doing it. But something was still missing because I was in a classroom environment and I felt I had a message bigger than that. And I kind of felt stifled and I kind of was restricted, okay, you have to teach this, this, this. Yeah. And as I was teaching at NC State, so I moved from New York City to North Carolina. And as I was teaching here, one of my supervisors, she overheard a conversation that I was having with a student and she told me, Yasemin, you would make a great life coach. Right. Of course, the very academic me was like, what is a life coach? Like, what the heck is that? People hire coaches for their lives. Right. But the thing is, something was, there was this fire in me. And I went home that night and Googled it and literally signed up for a life coaching certification course that night.
It called to you.
It did. And that's really where it began for me. So that was the end of 2011. 2012, I started going to seminars, attending different things, found so many different mentors, and the rest is history. I mean, I was able to literally go full force with, still teaching at the university at that time. Yeah. But by the end of 2013, that was it for me. I was able to leave my decade-long job and be able to move into the coaching career.
And so how did you decide, coaching, the industry is such a massive industry, right? You could coach on anything in terms of whatever that you could have solved for yourself or anything that you're drawn to. Yeah. So how did you pick your niche of a direction and focus of your coaching?
I love your question because when I first began, I was, and I'm sure this is how most creative people begin, you want to help everyone, like, especially if you have this, like us, people with big hearts. Yes. We want to help everybody. I know. It's like, I want to teach young people because I love teenagers. I love college students. I want to teach parents, I'm a parent. Right. And then I was like, wait a second, like, I can't be doing all of this. Like, I need to really figure out who I'm teaching, who my ideal clients are, and just really go with that. So the way I started was kind of broad, honestly. My company is called Amplify Your Dreams. So that was how I started. I started my company, Amplify Your Dreams. And the whole idea was, I'm going to help, at that time I said to myself, still transitioning from the academia, I said, I'm going to help college students, college age people, have that direction in life, help them amplify their dreams. Sure. Because I saw that a lot of them were struggling. They didn't know what they wanted to study. They didn't know what to do in their lives. They were kind of lost. Yeah. So I figured I'm going to do that. But then, not long after, I realized that was not, if I was going to make it a business, because at that time I was still earning money from teaching. But then I said, if I'm going to monetize this, college students don't have the money for coaching. So I had to be realistic. I mean, I was depending on their parents to, buy the services.
That's right. Yeah.
But then I said, okay, you know what? Then I can open up to all the big dreamers, people who, so it doesn't have to be college students, but it could be anyone who has a big dream, whatever it is that they've been trying to do, but they've been procrastinating. They somehow couldn't get on that dream and couldn't get it off the ground. And that's really how it began for me.
Right.
And my first online course was really geared towards that, just basic personal development, goal setting, productivity, mindset. And
that was is it the Dream Blueprint? Is that the personal development course that you created in the beginning? Right. Yeah.
Yes.
So that had nothing to do with business. That was literally just personal development, human behavior.
It's personal development. I mean, I've had entrepreneurs take that course too, because as people get to know me, they're like, oh, what do I take? And usually I give that as a bonus in my coaching packages.
Sure.
So I've gotten great feedback because it does have the basics. Sometimes going back to the fundamentals is really important.
Totally.
Because we may forget certain things and then we're like, oh, I never thought about that. It's common sense. But not common practice.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And sometimes we make certain choices not going back into the foundations of what makes our values and what is the GPS that is supposed to kind of help us direct these decisions that we make. And sometimes
mindset.
Totally. Mindset and approach and perspective. Really on what we're making decisions on. And it's hard when you're, let's say, chasing money. That pressure of chasing money, for example, you lose sight of kind of, is that really the right thing for me? So that was the first initial course you started, which is great because that really came from the theme of, as you said, when you were teaching, when you were attracted, it was really just a natural thing, right? Like that came to you. You love Jack Canfield, but you were reading those books. Yeah.
I should be honest. So when I first began, I just began with one-to-one coaching, as most coaches do, right?
Yes.
But then soon after, I realized this is so not scalable.
Yeah.
And at the end of 2013, I had to make a decision. By that time, I had been coaching for about a year or so because I started really officially coaching at the end of 2012.
Right.
So for about a year, I coached and I did even group coaching, small groups, like 6 to 8 people. But then I said, okay, this is not scalable. And then I was pregnant with my 3rd child. And I said, okay, you know what? Now is the time. Like, this is game time. I have to make it happen. I have to be able to leave the university, teaching job and not have to go back.
Sure.
So for me, that's the time that I decided to start creating online courses because I just didn't want to be glued to the computer coaching all day, even though I love it so much. But it does take a lot of time and a lot of effort.
Right. And I'm glad you mentioned that you started, and this whole thing being transparent about, you started at the one-on-one coaching. And I think a lot of people start to jump, they try to accelerate to like online courses because that seems like, the passive income stuff, it's the one, can I make money while I sleep, right? It's like sexy and very attractive to kind of look at business that way. But the honest truth is that if you're in a people-based business, if you're in the business of helping other people, well, you're going to have to help other people. Like, you've got to have to do that first. It's not about like, doing the that you have to go over this threshold, but just because you have to go past it. But really, on a logical level, you can't create a course and know what people need and know what to create for these people in their pain points until you start working with real humans on an intimate level and on a one-on-one level, and starting there first, but not needing to stay there forever and leveraging, as you said, your time and your skills to be able to impact more people. So I want to talk a little bit about your first one-on-one program. What program was that, and who was it geared towards?
Sure. It was called Amplify Your Dreams Group Coaching. Well, Amplify Your Dreams Coaching. So there was the option of one-on-one, or if they couldn't afford one-on-one, then they could be in a group.
Yeah, perfect.
And that was a 6-week intensive, just really covering, again, a lot of the things of like being able to focus. That's a huge thing because most people, the reason they don't get their dreams off the ground, the reason they procrastinate is because they dabble into so many things and they're not able to focus on that one thing. Let's say someone wants to start a podcast.
Right.
And I give that example because I'm launching my podcast very soon.
Right.
So, and then they want to write a book and then they want to also do, I don't know what. Like if you're doing millions of things at the same time, and not focusing on that one thing, obviously you're not going to get it done, or it's going to take years, and then everything is going to be just mediocre. Nothing is really mastered, right?
Right.
So it was really about mastery, mastering whatever you're trying to do. So I had people with very different goals, but even in a group setting, they were able to help one another and just have that camaraderie.
And how did you find out kind of what to create in that program? So did you do some market research first? Is it based on instinct of experiences that you've had? So how did you kind of pull together this curriculum, let's say, of the step-by-step process, whether you're running it in a one-on-one or group?
Sure. So I kind of reverse engineered. I looked at things in my life. I'm the kind of person, since I was a little girl, I was a big dreamer. When I was 10 years old, I started learning English. So English is not my first language. And when I started learning English, I said to myself, when I grow up, I'm going to go to the US and I'm going to study there.
Right.
Like that
and
was
you're from Turkey originally, right?
I'm originally from Istanbul, yeah. So I was in 6th grade and I remember learning English and I loved it so much. And I had American teachers and I was blessed to go to a very good school. And I remember thinking ahead of time, like saying, when I graduate from high school, I'm going to go to the US.
Right.
Like none of my peers, none of my classmates were thinking that way. All of them were just like, they were in their own little, whatever they were doing. But I was like that kid, who was like already like setting goals for the next 10 years, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was always, that I had those big dreams that people would say, who do you think you are? Like, and I remember people saying that to me, like, who do you think you are? Like, you're going to go to the US and like, you're going to study there. Like, you're going to manage to actually go to classes and like be in a class with Americans and be able to do that. And I was like, yeah, because I'm going to learn to speak English just like an American. So I knew that was my thing. Like, I just knew how to do it. So I kind of reverse engineered, like, how did I get to do the things that I did in my life? Like going through college, for instance, was very difficult because literally my freshman year, my father died and he was the one footing the bill for my private school.
Sure.
And once he passed away, it was like, okay, what do I do now? And everybody said, just come back. There's no way you're going to make it over there. Like, no way. It's like $20,000 just tuition. That's crazy. But for me, it was like, I have to find a way. So I just reverse engineered. Like I said, okay, the first thing I did was make that decision.
Yes.
So like making a decision, like having that clarity, so we would focus on that, like that would be the first thing. Like, what is it that you truly want to do? Don't think about the circumstances.
Yeah.
Don't think about
Don't think about the how even at this point.
Don't think about the how, but just think about your why and think about your, have that clarity. Like, what is it you really want to accomplish? And when you ask that question, sometimes people just freeze. People are like, I don't really know, and I love seeing that and then just really just digging deep, asking questions to get that out. So it all came really through, I guess, reverse engineering. And I did utilize certain books, like for instance, I'll give you an example. The Compound Effect is a book that I kind of made mandatory for my clients. I said, okay, this is a supplementary book, but I want it to be like mandatory. I want you to read it because it went so well with what I was teaching.
Yeah.
So I think utilizing books definitely enriches your curriculum. But everything else, I mean, I'm a teacher, right, by background. So I'm so used to creating a curriculum. For me, it's like creating an online course is like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
It really is, because I'm so used to creating my own curriculum.
Yeah, and one of the things that I really found out as well is even with one-on-one coaching is that there needs some structure. That's what people pay you for. To have a destination to meet, and how many sessions is it going to take? How long are we going to have these sessions? What do we do in between sessions? And I think sometimes when we're in this service-based industry where everything's really intangible, it's like we cause a transformation. I mean, how do you measure that sometimes? But we do need to have some tangible results, right? So they're able to do something, at the end of the day after they're done with you. What do you bless them with? What exactly happens and transforms in their life, in the tangible aspect of their life that you need to highlight, right? And then, as you said, reverse engineer from those results to go, what milestones perhaps need to be met to have that happen. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think a lot of times when people create courses, they'll have structure, but then in one-on-one coaching, they'll kind of wing it, like they'll just get on a call.
Yeah, like, so what do you want to talk about today?
And then the client will go, well, I've had a fight with my husband, and they might talk about that, and it's not the thing they hired you for. So having some structure, which is what I call the kind of blueprint, right? The kind of map of the way you help, the way that you're going to get people to results from A to B. That's important to realize, because I think as you start to see those milestones, those little milestones could potentially be expanded into another program actually, right?
Absolutely.
Right? Like certain modules or certain sessions are so powerful that you might go, you know what, this is completely another book, or it could be a course, right?
It's so true, because that's exactly what I'm going to be doing with the Dream Blueprint, because it
great.
was so comprehensive.
Right.
And it was great. You know, people loved it. But now that I look at it, I'm like, those 8 modules, like literally, I can have 8 courses.
That's right. Yeah, because they can be expanded. Yeah, I love that.
And so with the feedback that I've gotten, like, so for instance, there's a productivity module in there, and that's going to be turned into a course. Not the module that I created, but I'm going to develop it more into just a productivity course, because that's something that entrepreneurs really struggle with.
Yeah.
I don't care how much money they're making, they are struggling with productivity if they haven't tapped into certain high performance techniques.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you use a mix of kind of your own instinct, your own experience, because I think that's where we start, right? People that are usually helping other people start from a place of like, what have I solved for myself, right? What have I done that has changed my life? And now I want to kind of instill that blessing back into other people. So that's what you did as well, which I love. And then you start to listen, right? The listening part is also important, because it sounds like you did get feedback, right? You did listen to your audience and your customers and go, what is their starting point? What do they need after that? And then so forth, to kind of help you create. So now you obviously have more than one program, right? You've got like the high performance coaching, you've got your, the Amplify your business coaching as well. Then you've got a Dream Blueprint. You may be coming up with more group courses or group programs.
I am actually,
in time.
yes. I'm going to be coming up with an online course this year.
Perfect. Excellent. So when do you know, the question I have is kind of like, when do you know when to create the next thing? And what is the process that you take to kind of go, all right, I think I'm going to create this, because I think it starts from just like purely like, I want to do this, you know, that first motivation. And then how do you kind of solidify that to go, right, this is the right route. This is the next thing people are asking for. What is kind of your process around that?
I love that. I love it. It's a great question. First of all, I will say how I don't decide to do it. Good. Like certain things, definitely not out of desperation, you know. I don't look at my bank account and say, I need to do a launch. Let me do a launch to bring in some real major cash this month.
Sure.
No. Because if you do it from that perspective, it's not going to be authentic. It's just not going to flow, and it's just going to be so forced.
And it's motivated by something that isn't genuine. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, that's, you know, even though that might be tempting to some people, I understand, you know, they want to bring in this chunk, and it is possible to do that. But for me, it's like, okay, you know what? I want to really do it at a time that I feel like I'm able to do it. So this productivity course has been on my mind for some time, but I really wanted to master certain things in my life, because if I'm teaching something, it's got to feel congruent. You know, I have to really be able to say, I've been doing this for some time. I can't just be like, oh, okay, I've been doing this for a week, you know?
Yeah, and now I'm going to teach it to you.
And now I'm going to teach you how to do it, you know?
Right.
No, like it's really, I have to hammer it down. I have to tweak it. I have to see how it's working out. So for instance, one of the things I'm going to be teaching in that course is a morning routine. You know, how to really set up, because everybody talks about morning routines, but most people cannot stick to them. Most people, you know, like statistics show that most people who say they're going to do a morning routine, they do it for some time, just like New Year's resolutions. After some time, it's like down the drain, right? They go on a vacation and then they forget about the morning routine, and then it's so hard to get back to it.
Totally.
So I'm going to talk about like how to set a morning routine that you can actually stick to. So for me to be able to teach that, I had to really be able to set a morning routine for myself that actually works.
And see results and be able to kind of stand by it. Yeah.
Exactly. And know how much it transformed my life, so I can tell that to the people. Like, look, guys, this is what I've been able to do, like over the past year, for instance, you know, like my morning routine has been pretty solid for almost a year and a half now that I feel comfortable teaching it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think it's very important for me to have that congruency and to be able to say I'm walking the talk. Of course, I'm not perfect.
Yes.
I definitely accept the fact that I'm always, you know, we're always in process of learning, in process of getting better. You know, that's the beauty of personal development.
Right.
And as an entrepreneur, it never ends. We're lifelong learners.
Yeah.
But the thing is, there's always, you know, like hopefully we're better than last year, you know? So I think to have improved something and then be able to teach it to others, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
So,
and I love that you said that, you know, you walk the talk first and you're teaching, you're not perfect, but you're teaching what you know in the stage that you're at. And people get a little bit too stuck into the whole expertise, you know, fraud syndrome, where they're like, I have to be 20 years into, especially academics, right? They're like, I've got to prove myself for 20 years until I'm able to teach it. But you teach, you know, the people that are one step before you. You're not teaching a bunch of people that you don't know anything about, or they're too advanced, or whatever it may be. You're an expert as long as you're one step ahead of someone else. And those are the people that you recruit in a way, you know?
And you know what? I think that's the perfect, like when I try to choose someone as a coach for me, I try to choose someone who is a few steps ahead of me, not like millions of steps ahead of me, because then they forget. They forget what it was like to be a beginner.
Yeah.
And I think that's normal, you know?
Yeah.
So I really try to do it the same way.
Yeah, I love that. So congruency on a personal level for you is important. And then do you then validate it with the external audience? So if you have an instinct about something, you go, you know what, this feels right for me to do, but I want to know for sure. I don't want to spend all this time creating something and then they don't want to buy because that maybe I said it wrong or I messaged it wrong. So how do you kind of validate that with your audience?
I usually do it with a webinar. You know, I'll do a webinar or I'll do some sort of a video, you know, and I'll start asking questions like, is this something you guys are interested in? You know, like literally just ask. If I were to create a course on this, you know, on XYZ, is that something you guys would need?
Yeah.
And what are your struggles with it? So I do market research, you know, so I'll put it out there on Facebook, on social media in general, different Facebook groups, and find out what people really need. What is it that they're struggling with? Because I don't want to create something for just, you know, ghosts, right? I want to make sure that people need them, and that it's really going to solve a problem, that it's going to really take a pain away, and that's why we do what we do, right?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because it's true. Our businesses are built to solve a problem, and it's not always about us. It's about them, for sure. The instinct comes from us, and we should want to do it. And that's the only, the answer comes from us only, from within. And then it's about, you know, make sure that we hit the mark of what are the actual pain points, what are the actual desires, you know, our audience needs, and then meet in the middle. You know, the style is ours, but what we bring them through to the results is what they're requesting, right? Which is then what helps sell the program, and then we have a business. Well, you know, Yasemin, thank you so much for coming on and telling us your story. This is really, really packed with value and meat. So I can't wait to actually write the content for the video blog. So we're not only just featuring the interview, I'm actually going to write out a blog post that's going to hit some of the key points that you talked about so that people can actually take a read at it. But for the audience that don't know who you are, want to find out more about what you do, where's the best place to find you online right now?
Okay, so there are a few places. The best place to find out more about me and connect with me would be definitely my website. That's www.yaseminInal.com. My name is spelled YASEMININAL.com. And also on Facebook, I have a new and a growing group. It's called The Thriving Entrepreneur. And it's really all about bringing high performance and business strategy together, because I want to like redefine success and redefine high performance. I see a lot of people talking about hustling, and I'm totally like for it. I think it's important to hustle, just work hard. I believe in that work ethic, but I also believe that it has to be done wisely, because if we burn ourselves out, we are our greatest asset of our businesses. Then our businesses wouldn't run, and then it wouldn't be worth it anyway, because if you're sick and you have billions of dollars but you can't even eat, what's the point, right? So it's all about really just redefining it, because I've been there. I've hustled so hard that I got so sick at one point, and I was like, okay, this is not what it's supposed to be. So I want to make sure that at least I can try to avoid it for other people.
And what does the hustle, what's a feel-good hustle for you? Because someone that wants to work 10 hours a day should, if that's truly what makes them light up. But some people are doing it just because they think everybody else is. And I think that's when we have to know the difference between that. Yeah, very cool.
Exactly. And that's where productivity comes in, you know, like once you have a productivity tool, it's those 10 hours could be reduced to, let's say, 6 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. And
so the Thriving Entrepreneur.
How do they find that on Facebook, or is it on your site as well?
It's actually on Facebook, so they could just go search The Thriving Entrepreneur and then join the group. And also, I'm launching my podcast.
Yes, that's right.
Out very soon. It's again, The Thriving Entrepreneur. They can find it on iTunes.
Lovely. Thank you so much for coming, and hope I didn't take you away from your children too much tonight. I know you're a mom, and I love hearing these great stories of mothers actually making it happen. Because for someone like me who is in the future want to have children in the future, I'm always like, can this happen for me where I can balance business and my life and children? So I'm glad to see an example of evidence that
awesome.
Someone doing it well and doing it right. So thanks again for joining me, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me.